So the whole topic of our gut and how it affects our health and how it affects our brain. And we know that there's a gut brain connection and a gut immune system connection and pretty much a gut everything connection. We haven't dove deep into this topic yet. I've had a few gut experts on. And of course, I mean, most of my listeners, most of you all listening, already know about the importance of the gut microbiome and how there is this GI connection to our whole body. But I have not dove into the why. I have not yet dove into the offenders and what is causing this assault on our GI tracts. And I also haven't dove into what we can actually do about it to reverse this problem. So my guest today is going to help us understand all of it. Miss Tina Anderson, thank you so much for jumping on here. I can't wait to pick your brain. I just gave a little teaser there to the audience so they can hold on, but we are going to talk about so many different things today that I'm kind of excited about it.
So am I. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Amie. I am so excited to be here.
So, one of the things that we kind of talked about off air, and I absolutely wanted to bring it into this discussion because it is a discussion separately outside of the topic of the gut that I have alluded to on the show before. And that is Big Pharma and really what they are doing to market to us that ultimately does affect our gut. We're gonna make this tie all together. But we know that our world is really driven by big pharma, and we are one of two countries that allow for pharmaceuticals to be advertised on TV, literally just pushing it down our throats. What is the problem with this? What are you seeing, and can you make this whole connection for us of what big pharma is doing and our gut microbiome and our overall health for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, for one, the advertising, one of the biggest things is not just telling everybody about all these different pharmaceuticals out there, but it's basically that they're owning the media outlets. And so the media outlets are not open-minded to talking about vitamin D or sunshine. I mean, during COVID, it drove me crazy. There was this one doctor that came on all the time. I live in the Chicago area that would come on all the time and say, different things about COVID, different updates. And he one time came on and said, oh, there's a lot of great studies about vitamin D, but no, 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 no. We definitely shouldn't be taking vitamin D. You cannot take vitamin D. Well, you need to get your levels measured. And it's like, oh my gosh, all this other stuff we're putting in our bodies and no one's thinking twice about. But all of a sudden, vitamin D has gotten so dangerous. So I think that's one of the biggest problems with the pharmaceutical ads is yes, it's influencing us on, oh, there's a drug out there to fix this. And, yes, we as consumers are seeing this, but I think the bigger problem is just the influence that pharmaceutical companies have on our media outlets and what they're willing to spread and what kind of information they're willing to spread. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, no, I mean, to your point, they're not spreading the information that we actually need that where we can take care of ourselves either for free, like you said, with sunlight, or, for a minimal cost by buying high quality supplements that help with our gut, help with our vitamin D. Like you don't hear about that. You only
No.
hear about the drugs.
Right. No, absolutely. And then what about pharmaceutical companies influencing medical schools? I mean, so much of funding for medical schools is coming from big pharma. I mean, I don't even know how that could possibly be allowed. It's like, doctors are not being taught about nutrition. They're not being taught about, maintaining our health. It's a sick care system. And that's what it really has become. And that's how doctors are being trained. And these are really well-intended doctors out there. I mean, these are smart people who have gone through years of schooling, but they are learning the pharmaceutical model, the sick care model. They are not focusing on prevention of disease or maintaining our health. That's not even talked about. And my husband and I were in the pharmaceutical industry for many years, and we saw the abuses, and we had won a huge bid from one of the largest hospital systems in the country. And a pharmaceutical rep came into the office, talked to my husband, and said, guess what, Billy? Guess what? My job now is to go to every hospital in this system and tell the doctors to lower the number, like lower the threshold number to prescribe that medication. So he was literally being sent by his, bosses to go into the hospital system and convince the doctors that they actually should prescribe that medicine at a lower level that maybe wasn't necessary for the patient. So, and we've now seen this. This is so uncovered, but there's enough people out there that don't see that right now. But it's exciting that there's a movement out there. In my opinion, a very bipartisan movement. It's become partisan, but I don't think it should be. This is just we have got to start taking the influence of pharmaceuticals out of our healthcare system.
Oh my gosh, that's just music to my ears to hear you say that because you're right. It's not talked about enough. I often reference the fact just we'll just take statins for one, that the total cholesterol cutoff where they would say, oh, Susie, you have high cholesterol. It used to be at a 300. Now we've lowered it to a 200. So to your point, let's change those ranges where now it's, oh, this is bad. Oh no, well, it was bad here, but now it's bad here, just to get more people on these pharmaceuticals. So I love that you mentioned that because this needs to be discussed. Now, how does the pharmaceutical industry actually influence the gut? Like, how are we making that tie? I know how, but I want you to say it. Like, how are we tying that in? How is the pharmaceutical industry basically destroying Americans' GI tracts?
Well, one of the biggest offenders to our gut health are antibiotics. I mean, and antibiotics that we take, of course, but there are also antibiotics just in our food supply, that we don't think about that we're consuming on a regular basis. But antibiotics save lives. And I mean, they're probably one of the most important medical discoveries we've ever had. Antibiotics are a wonderful tool to be taken when absolutely necessary. If you have a, life altering or a life, something that's going to affect your life, you want to be taking antibiotics to get rid of that infection. But we do not want to be taking antibiotics when we have the sniffles, and we don't want to be taking antibiotics when you have a viral infection. We want to be taking it when you have a known bacterial infection that's really detrimental to you. And unfortunately, they have been given out like candy over the years. We've seen this time and time again. And a lot of that is pharmaceuticals' fault. Sometimes it's our own fault. People will be like, oh, a patient may say, I'm going to Mexico. I want to take something. I got a little bit of a cold, or I've got a cough. And really, the antibiotic is only going to make things worse, because what's happening is the antibiotic is wreaking havoc on your gut. It is, getting rid of the bad bacteria, but it's also getting rid of the good bacteria. And now it's our immune system. Our immune system is found in our gut. 70 to 80% of our immune system, which is there to fight this virus that we're fighting, is now being destroyed. This gut bacteria is being destroyed because we're taking the antibiotic. So sometimes it could make the situation worse. And then just so many of the pharmaceuticals out there are just very detrimental to our gut health. I mean, they are completely destroying that ecosystem of our gut. And unfortunately, my gosh, I think the estimate is 60% of the adult population has at least one chronic condition that's being treated with pharmaceuticals. And they estimate over 40% of the population has two or more chronic conditions that, are, these pharmaceuticals are wreaking havoc on our gut.
100%. And I'm gonna use the autoimmune conditions as an example here, but I'll hand it back over to you to springboard off of that. I know just from my experience and what I see in my practice that autoimmune conditions are on the rise. And specifically in the area of thyroid health, there is Hashimoto's, very, very common, but we're seeing more and more and more of it. Now, we know, or maybe you have all heard about the analogy of the three-legged stool as it ties into autoimmunity. And I give credit where credit is due. This is Alessio Fasano. He is hilarious to listen to, but a brilliant man to boot. And he gave this analogy of the three-legged stool, and it makes sense. You have a genetic predisposition for autoimmunity. You have leaky gut. So who doesn't have leaky gut these days because of all of the toxins and the pesticides and the antibiotics in our food, the exposure, all of that that's destroying our gut. And then you have a trigger. And so we are seeing more and more autoimmune conditions now, definitely tied to the gut and then tied back to toxin exposure, our food supply, everything that you just shared. Now, can you expand on that? Because that one leg of the stool is leaky gut. Like I just said, pretty much all of us have it. What are you seeing in addition to autoimmune? What other health conditions can be caused from poor gut health, which we pretty much all have.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, they are estimating that over 80% of the adult population has a leaky gut and doesn't know it. And what's so scary about that is that a leaky gut is like a drippy faucet. We did a study that was the study done on our strains, and our product actually was done by University of North Texas. They took 100 college students, and 55% of those healthy college students, they had no issues at all. They weren't on any medications. They had no symptoms. 55% of them had a leaky gut and didn't know it. So that means we're walking around with this drippy faucet. And so many people will say, I never had allergies before. And then all of a sudden they have an allergy. Well, this didn't just happen one day. It was that this faucet was leaking all the time. And then all of a sudden it starts to create an autoimmune condition. So with leaky gut, we know that leaky gut is basically the LPS toxins, so lipopolysaccharide toxins that are in our gut that aren't really that problematic. It's when those LPS toxins seep into the bloodstream, they start to cause this inflammatory response. Our immune system recognizes it as an invader, and we start to have this inflammatory response. This inflammation can go to, they could cause autoimmune issues, like you mentioned. This inflammation could go to our brain, which is why there's a huge connection between the gut and the brain. We know that inflammation could start causing mental health issues, mood disorders. It could go to our heart. It could go to any organ that we're talking about. And that's why, I mean, 90% of non-communicable diseases are really attributable to a leaky gut. And it is literally the biggest offender to our gut health or to our overall health is the leakiness of the gut. And so many of us are walking around with a leaky gut.
Well, I'm going to go back to what you said earlier because I think this is an important point to touch on. If 55% of us don't know that we have leaky gut, I think this is important to stay on because a lot of people think that even when we say the term leaky gut, what do you think automatically? You think diarrhea, you think a gut issue, bloating, constipation, loose stools, heartburn, indigestion, anything like that. But it doesn't have to present itself as a gut issue when you have leaky gut, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up because so many people associate gut health as being a digestive issue going on.
Mm-hmm.
But your skin, I mean, your skin is a perfect example of this. I mean, that's how I got my daughters when we launched this company to get on our probiotic because they were like, they had acne going on and they were dealing with skin issues. And they were like, oh my God, it's amazing how it starts to help your skin and skin rashes. That's all attributable to the health or unhealth of your gut when you're talking about heart disease, cancer, diabetes. I mean, like I said, it's hard to find any disease out there that's not associated with an unhealthy gut, and
Yeah.
it is all stemming from that leakiness of the gut. And again, we're just there's so many offenders out there to our gut health.
Oh my gosh, there's so many, so many. So beyond, so we have toxins, we have food. We can even go one step further and say the pharmaceuticals that you even need. So what I'm thinking of is thyroid medication. I often hear people say that, well, I'm taking XYZ amount, this dose of natural desiccated thyroid, T3. Of course, I'm not a fan of T4 only. That kind of goes back to the medical schools getting paid off by Big Pharma as they push one narrative and one standard of care. But let's say someone is actually on the right thyroid medication for them and they go, my number isn't moving. I'm just not feeling better. We always say, well, it could be your gut. So if
Mhm.
you are experiencing any kind of gut issues, dysbiosis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, the big ones, or just simply leaky gut that you don't know, or you're not supporting your microbiome, you're not taking digestive enzymes to help break down your food, then how can we expect this beautiful life-giving medication that we are taking orally that has to be broken down in the gut? How can we expect that to work? How can we expect our body to absorb it? And I'll go one step further, protein. I'm always talking about the importance of protein, the importance of protein. And then I'll have women say, well, I don't know. My protein level and my blood work is still low. I don't feel like I am absorbing the protein. I don't feel like I'm getting the amino acids that I need for my hair, for my skin, for my nails, for my muscles, for my energy. And we go, okay, well, maybe you aren't absorbing it because you're not giving your body any help when you eat that steak to break it down. You think that you're your perfect leaky gut there that's been
Mhm.
bombarded through the years from all kinds of offenses is going to adequately break down and utilize that protein that you're eating. We all need some help here. And I think, just even expanding into the good stuff that we take in can affect our gut. And then at the other end of the spectrum, the good stuff that we take in needs to be broken down and assimilated properly. And sometimes we need help with that.
Right. And if our gut is inflamed, we're just not doing that. We're not absorbing nutrients. We're not assimilating these nutrients. And that's why I'm always saying you need to focus on your gut first before you do any other type of things. So people are eating like super healthy foods, eating plenty of protein, eating all these organic vegetables and all these great foods that are so nutrient dense. But if your gut is not able to absorb them and assimilate those nutrients, they're not absorbing any of the nutrients or the pharmaceuticals that are out there. So
Right.
it is foundational. It's ground zero when you're talking about health and being able to absorb nutrients and deal with other issues that you have. You can't do one without the other. Your gut has to be healthy in order to have all of these other nutrients optimized.
And I want to pick your brain on this too. My belief is you do not need expensive $2,000, $3,000 gut healing protocols that the IG influencers out there are pushing
Mhm.
to heal your gut. Sometimes you just need simple, supportive things that we're going to get into to actually bring your gut health to another level. And I'm really adamant about this because I see, I'm sure you do too, so many people again spending thousands of dollars on these gut healing protocols. It's like, how about you just use some core protocols and save thousands and thousands of dollars and you'll experience the same result.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I see it. I mean, everybody is on the gut health bandwagon right now. It is hysterical. I mean, I'm finding every product is doing a gut health spin on it. And it's funny because I would always say, I'm not, our competitors are not other supplement companies. I've always felt really strongly about that. My competitor has always been Big Pharma. I want people to be talking about talking about supplements. And
Right.
I don't want to ever push another supplement company down because at least that customer is now open-minded to looking at supplements out there.
True.
However, a little caveat in the last, probably 12 months, I have seen so many companies jump on this gut health bandwagon and all these different protocols and all these fancy things when really it is relatively simple and it doesn't even take that long to start healing your gut. I mean, that's the thing. Our world we're living in, the glyphosates, the pesticides, the pharmaceuticals out there, they're all wreaking havoc on our gut, leaky gut, wreaking havoc on our health. But really, the good news is that our guts can be fixed. I mean, they really can be healed, and that's exciting. And it's not a one bullet. It's like you've got to do a lot of different things, but they can be fixed.
I love that you say that. It just made me laugh to myself. I'm like, oh yeah, I should start pushing my, thyroid fixer is it heals your gut too. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
everything heals
because of
your
the
gut.
thyroid gut connection, maybe it would help. It certainly would help.
It's not, no, it's not. T2 is not going to heal your gut, people.
Okay.
You got to use other things for that. Okay, so and I love when I have guests on that I can legit learn from. Like sometimes I won't even look something up because I want a clean slate in my mind so that I can ask the right questions because I want to learn from you. I'm going to start with probiotics because this is huge. And years ago I would laugh because you have Jamie Lee Curtis eating Activia yogurt, and then every woman over the age of 35 started going out and buying Activia and eating Activia every day and going, I'm going to get my probiotics,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Uh, I want to start with probiotics because there's so much controversy out there of when you should take it, how you should take it, how many billions or trillions of good bacteria you should look for. Should it be refrigerated? Should you take it every day? Should you only take it when you do an antibiotic? Can you start there and break it down and actually teach me as well?
Sure. So, just the definition of a probiotic is a live microorganism when conferred in adequate amounts delivers a benefit onto the host, which is the body. So, the key part of that definition is it needs to be a live microorganism. And where I think things went wrong in the probiotic industry is that they all thought it needs to be a live microorganism like when you're buying it at the store. But really, it needs to be alive in your intestines. And the overwhelming majority of probiotics really have difficulty meeting that first part of the definition, just being a live microorganism. Most probiotics, when you take them, they can't even withstand the room temperature of the store shelf, which is why you find them in the refrigerator. So if they can't withstand the room temperature of the store shelf, how in the world would they ever survive your body temperature, which is much hotter at 98.6? And the answer is they don't. I mean, we tested this time and time again. Third-party labs have tested this time and time again. The overwhelming majority of probiotics are made up of lactobacillus bifidobacterium strains. Most of those very sensitive organisms, they die before they ever get to the intestines. So we want that a probiotic to actually get, swallow it, go down through the intestinal tract, hit the stomach acid and not be killed off. Most probiotics are being killed by the very acidic environment in the stomach acid. We want, obviously, our stomach, it's meant to be the gastric barrier. We want it to be acidic, but most probiotics are dying by the time they get to the intestines. And that's the problem. So they may provide some symptomatic relief, but they're not making a true change in the gut. So this type of strains we work with are spore-based probiotics, and the spores have the ability to survive not only your body temperature, which is 98.6, but your stomach acid. They have this endospore shell around themselves, and they are able to survive that journey from your mouth all the way through your stomach and get to the intestines alive, where they stay there for about 21 to 28 days, going into that garden, if you will, that ecosystem of your intestines, and they're actually getting rid of the overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria and helping bring our good bacteria back to life. So it's a very, very effective approach to your gut health, because it's actually getting there alive, which is the main thing. And then we're not like caught up in the whole, like, I'm glad you brought up the number of CFUs. That's such an important point, because that is one big myth out there. One of the big myths is that a probiotic, in order to be a good probiotic, needs to be refrigerated because it's a live microorganism. We already debunked that. That's actually a sign of a weak probiotic, because it can't even withstand the room temperature of the store shelf. But the other big myth out there is when you're talking about the number of CFUs. So you'll see on the bottle like 250 billion CFUs, 100 billion CFUs, and there is no science showing that more is better. It's actually what we need to focus on is what happens when these strains get into the gut. What kind of change are they making into the gut? Where most of these lactobacillus strains are actually getting in there, they're dying by the time they get in the intestines. And when they do get in there, they just kind of pass through like food. So the analogy I love to like explain this to people, because it does kind of get confusing, is if you envision a garden and the garden has been stepped on and trampled on, and you compare that garden to your gut. And so in that garden, you've got these weeds that are overgrowing and taking over the garden, similar to the pathogenic bacteria that's taking over your gut. And then in that garden, you have these plants that are good plants, but they're just like not thriving in there. They're just being stepped on and trampled on. So the overwhelming majority of probiotics, they throw those seeds into that garden. Most of them don't get there, but let's say some do get in there. They may plant a new plant in there, but they're not doing anything with those weeds, and they're not doing anything with those plants that have been stepped on and trampled on. They just maybe will put another plant in there that make it look pretty. What the spores do, they go into that garden, they attach to the soil in the garden, so they're staying there for a while. They have the ability to get rid of that overgrowth of the weeds, and then they have the ability to bring those plants and help them come back to life. So you think of the spores as like the gardener of the gut. They're going in there, helping get rid of that overgrowth of bacteria, and then helping bring our good bacteria back to life. So it's a very, very effective approach to our gut. And it's why we see such profound results with the product, because it's actually acting as a true probiotic. It's a live microorganism that's conferring a benefit onto the host, which is the body.
See, I love this. When I learn new things, as you were talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could take this every day. This could
Oh,
this
yes.
this totally is beneficial every day. So we don't, when we're taking a spore-based probiotic, we are not down regulating the production of other good gut bacteria, right? Like we're not, what I always think of is, like, you have, like you said, the CFUs. You have trillions and trillions of these good guys, and they all want fed. They're like, come on, feed me, feed me.
Yeah.
And if we are only feeding half of the good guys, the other half gets starved. But that's not the case with a spore based, where it actually delivers that live bacteria to the gut, all the guys are getting fed, it sounds like.
Yes, and it's doing something called quorum sensing. So it's actually reading the microbial environment when they get there. So they will do something different in your gut than they'll do in my gut, depending on what's going on. So these are
Oh,
very
that's cool.
intelligent organisms. Yeah, and they are able to read the microbial environment, and it's they're fascinating. And it's actually how we evolved. So when you ask about whether we could take it every day, our ancestors evolved taking these strains, because not taking them in a supplement form, unfortunately, but they were eating roots and tubers off the land, and they were getting the soil, and the soil was teeming with these bacillus strains of probiotics. And that really is the key, is that we didn't, if we would never need these supplements, obviously, if we had clean soil, which
Right.
is, obviously a whole other topic of discussion. But if we go to tribes in Tanzania or Papua New Guinea and we're eating off the land, you will find the same bacillus spores that are in our product in the soil. We evolved to be eating these on a regular basis, and they're going in, like I said, reading our microbial environment and doing something very different in everyone's gut. And that's why the same dosage would apply to like an adult versus a child, because of the fact that those strains are actually reading the microbial environment.
That is fascinating. I mean, just to have a smart probiotic that can get in and adjust to the host, I think is absolutely amazing, because I have so many. I always think about my patients whenever I'm interviewing someone and talking to an expert. I always think, how can I use this information to even help my patients? And I'll even think of a couple that will come to mind. I'm like, yeah, she's been dealing with this weird bloat that we haven't been able to figure out, and it's not related to this and it's not related to that. And we did a GI map on her. Could it be as simple as her taking this beautiful spore-based probiotic that you just described, that alone could be the answer, and maybe stacked with some other things. I have other questions for you of what we can do for our guts, but I love learning, because I'm always thinking, how can I apply this to the people that I know and the people that I'm currently helping? And there's already a few coming to mind that I'm gonna use this on for sure. So
Yeah.
bitters, I've heard, I went through functional medicine training, but again, I am not a gut expert. I'm a thyroid and hormone expert. I always joke, I don't play one on TV. I am not a gut expert,
Mhm.
but I hear so much about bitters, and I've taken them on and off for various reasons, but I know they're beneficial. But can you break down how we can use digestive bitters, and when we use them and how they help us as well?
Yeah, so the probiotic you want to think of is dealing with it, it helps in the small intestine. And of course, its main function is in the large intestine, the large bowel. So we really, I mean, I always say the probiotic itself is just non-negotiable. It's where you start ground zero before anything else. The bitters, you want to think of the bitters as handling, like they're actually increasing your stomach acid, help increase your stomach acid, helps increase digestive enzymes, support bile production. So think of it as also supporting your stomach. And the stomach is very overlooked and overused, really. And so that's really the big thing with bitters. And we also evolved with bitters, and we love to go back to the way we evolved. I mean, we were eating bitter foods. Our foods now are engineered to take that bitter flavor out, and we have now it's like sugary, engineered to be sugary and salty. We really don't have bitters. We're not consuming bitters on a regular basis. And there's 25 different bitter receptors throughout our body. And we think of them as only digestive, but we have bitter receptors in our brain. We have bitter receptors in our lungs. Most of the bitter receptors are in our digestive tract, but we really have to think of like bitters as not just digestion, but it's also affecting our lungs and our brain, our respiratory system. So, and people I think are looking at they're taking antacids and things. Everyone's popping
Yeah.
antacids because they're dealing with GERD and all these issues. And it's all obviously because their stomach acid is being lowered by all of these things, which is detrimental. So we're literally taking an antacid to bring down our stomach acid, which is now contributing to our GERD because we need our stomach acid. It's very protective. And so this is great. We know that the bitters actually increase support our production of stomach acid.
And we have to bring up the topic of the GLP use now. Now, I of course speak about it in in terms of micro dosing so that you don't get the GI effects of the slowed gastric motility, the acid reflux, where you are drinking Pepto like it's going out of style. I know I've been there. I'm very open about experimenting with a higher dose and being in pain for a while. But in the world of the GLPs that we are in right now, where many people are using it, type 2 diabetics as well as Hollywood, just to lose 10 pounds, we are seeing a slowdown of gastric motility and of digestive juices and an uptick. I mean, I'm sure the PPI market, the the
Oh,
the Prilosec and the Pepto Bismols of the world are seeing this huge increase in sales because people are leaning on that instead of something natural like a digestive bitter to help calm down that fire of their digestive tract. And I also think that, and I'll let you speak to this as well, that a lot of people think that if they have acid reflux, the last thing you want to do is is to create more stomach acid or to put something like something bitter on acid. Ooh, wait, isn't that going to ignite the fire?
no, it's the opposite is true. I mean, it is, and the all of these antacids are just creating more of the problem. And that's what's so frustrating about the pharmaceutical industry and some of these over the counters out there is just they are making the problem worse. They're covering up symptoms, and antacids definitely help you feel better. There's no doubt, but they are just contributing to that problem of lower stomach acid. We want stomach acid. We absolutely need stomach acid. It is it's meant to be this gastric barrier to protect us. And now we're doing all of these things to bring down our stomach acid, which creates a whole litany of other issues with our gut and contributes to the leakiness of the gut. So please do not try to bring your stomach acid down. And we want to make sure that we're increasing our stomach acid, particularly when we're aging, because as we age, we don't produce as much stomach acid. So yeah, definitely don't want to do that.
So I have tried, I will give a testimonial here. I have tried the Just Thrive digestive bitters just this week because I went a little bit too high on my GLP dose. So I do microdose it. But sometimes, if I'm like traveling, I'm like, ooh, I want a little bit more carb and sugar craving control. So I bump up the dose. And then I immediately know I'm like, oh, shouldn't have done that. There's the heartburn. There's the digestive upset. So I am so thankful that I had the bitters and I did have the probiotics. So I threw everything. I just threw
Yeah.
everything at it because it was so uncomfortable. And it was like an immediate fire being put out, like faster than when I had to rely on Pepto Bismol years ago when I
Isn't
experimented with a higher dose.
I know it's amazing. We've been hearing this from so many customers already just because, and this is a brand new launch and we just launched it. And it's like we're having, I mean, it's just so exciting to have a natural alternative that can actually help with that, that burning feeling in your esophagus and all of that. And then also with the GLPs, I mean, people are taking their microdosing or they're taking full doses of Ozempic and that's causing gastric issues. So we need to be supporting our gut health. So if you're going to be on something, then take something to support your gut health and to counteract some of those side effects of it. And of course, the bitters also support our GLP-1 production. So we know that it's just a much gentler approach. So rather than, taking it, like Ozempic, for example, once every week, where it sits on your GLP-1 or it sits on there for like 7 days, these stay on there for about 20 minutes or so. So it's helping, our GLP-1. So it's a great alternative as well to just helping our own body's production of GLP-1s.
Well, and if you do you recommend taking the digestive bitters with every meal?
It depends. We say to take it with your largest meal of the day, but of course, if you're somebody who's really, I think it's if you're somebody like me who has I really don't have any digestive issues and I don't notice anything. So I would probably just take it once a day. But if you're someone who's really struggling when you're eating, I would take it before every meal.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I like that you can kind of tailor it to where you're at. If you're struggling, obviously increase it. So what I was going to say is if you're at least even taking it twice a day, then you are stimulating your own GLP production twice a day. Even if it's for 20 minutes at a time, you're still doing it ongoing as opposed to one shot that you expect to last a full week. I think that's
Absolutely.
much more in line with our natural production of GLP. So I love that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I want you to explain the ultimate IgG as well. So I know IgG from the GI map. We can test IgG, we can test IgA. secretory IgA. But what is Ultimate IgG as a product, and what does it do for us, and who should use it?
Yeah, you know what? We need to rename our Ultimate IgG product because it's basically, colostrum's having its heyday and the colostrum is all great. But why people love colostrum is because of IgG. So
Right.
we just have an incredibly potent IgG that is, everybody knows about colostrum, but it's like I said, it's because of the IgG. So IgG is immunoglobulin G, and
Hmm.
it's basically its job is to bind and neutralize toxins in the gut and have help your body secrete it naturally. So that's what our ultimate IgG has, like 25% more IgG than most colostrums out there. And it doesn't have any of the side effects of colostrum, which is like it doesn't have dairy, it doesn't there's other issues that people have with colostrum. So it's phenomenal. I mean, it's just a phenomenal product.
Well, and I love the fact that it is supporting detoxification and binding to the toxins as well, which again, I did not know that IgG or colostrum could even do. I always thought of it as, okay, you're coating, you're soothing. I knew about the immune connection for, again, going back to autoimmunity. I mean, this is a big one. If you have Hashimoto's, if you have any kind of autoimmunity, you need this IgG immune support because your immune system begins in the gut. And we've
Right.
already talked about the increased autoimmune conditions out there, the increased number of autoimmune conditions that we're seeing because of that one leg of the stool, which is leaky gut. So I completely understand the connection to immunity. What I did not know is the binding of the toxins and actually supporting detoxification as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also supporting the gut lining. The probiotic alone, we know we have a double blind human clinical trial, like I mentioned, on leaky gut, but we also know that the IgG is very supportive of the gut lining as well. So the combination is unbelievable.
So you would use that daily as opposed like the bitters you would use daily with one meal, maybe two. Probiotic would be daily. You would use the IgG daily as well, right?
Yep, absolutely. I take it daily. I mean, I've taken my kids take it daily. My husband, my whole family takes it daily. And I don't want to overwhelm people because I know I'm talking about like I always feel a probiotic is where you start, but
Hmm.
then you kind of look at what issues you're dealing with. Again, I don't have any digestive issues, and maybe it's because of all of this stuff I'm doing as I've aged, but I just think it's the research in this IgG is so profound and just showing how it's grabbing onto those toxins, and now your body they're neutralizing those toxins, getting rid of them, and then also further support of the gut lining. So it's incredible. And unfortunately, I don't want to be like this salesperson out there, but it's like our gut is where we start with health. This is where we start with health. And but I don't want to overwhelm people either.
Well, no, I think that this is a very simple protocol. Like this is why I wanted to talk about those three products because I think that forms your basis.
Yes.
Right. And y'all at Just Thrive have gone above and beyond. I mean, I am very, very picky with what I put in my body and being in the supplement industry and knowing what goes on behind the scenes and the false claims and the marketing tactics and all of that. So when I first tried the Just Thrive line, I was thoroughly impressed and then beyond impressed with just the love and the passion and the science. It's like you guys ball everything together and put it behind your products so that I know what I'm taking and what I'm recommending the patients, I feel confident about. I know they're going to work, and I also feel confident about the quality. So I love that we're talking about this because to me, this is the perfect basic stack. And there's so many people out there with gut issues. And like I said in the very beginning of the show, so many protocols that you can get sucked into, so many different products, so much money you could spend and waste. That's why we need to get back to the basics. Let's start with some basic, core, effective, high quality products, and then we can branch out from there. So,
Thank
am
you
I
for
right in that
thank
this would
you.
be the probiotic, the digestive bitters, and the IgG, perfect little stack? And then before I let you go, I just want to talk about a couple specialty products that people could add in.
Yeah. Yes, that would be a great stack. And thank you for your kind words. I want you to know how much that means to me because my husband and I started this company 11 years ago when not everybody was always talking about gut health. We put our life savings into this company and we have no investors. We have nobody to answer to but ourselves. There is not a product that we launch that I don't take personally and that my husband doesn't take personally. Our parents don't take. I mean, we are very passionate about what we bring to the market and that there's research behind it. We will never be a company that has 200 different SKUs. It's something that's very important to us. So please know that whatever we launch is something that we personally take. And so, yes, I think a stack with the probiotic, the digestive bitters, and IgG are phenomenal.
Yeah.
People would argue to the Just Calm product because people are so overwhelmed right now, and we know there's a big gut brain connection, but that might be a whole other podcast episode. But yes, definitely, that's a great place to start. And so easy. It's so easy. You had asked me earlier about the probiotic. It's just you just take it with food. It's like you take the bitters before food,
Mhm.
before your meal, and take the probiotic after your meal. It's just one a day with food. Sometimes I recommend people go slowly just because you may have some off effect, but most people are fine. But if not, just go slowly. Don't look at that as a sign that it's not working. Look at it as a sign that it is working. It's killing off that pathogenic bacteria, and just go slow up till you get to a one capsule a day.
And I love the fact that you and your husband own the company. I want to speak on that because I say this over and over again to my audience. When you are buying a supplement of any kind, you want to purchase from a company that is, for lack of a better word, owned by an individual or two, that it's not a big corporation, it's not a conglomerate. So many supplement companies, and I know you know this through the years, have sold out to Big Pharma. We have lost a lot of good names to Bayer, to Nestle. They're selling out to Big Food. What do you think the quality of those ingredients is going to be when Nestle and Bayer own it? You want to purchase from someone that has their name, their family name behind it. Because if you're producing garbage products, if I produce garbage products, that comes back on us and our reputation and the person that we have to look at in the mirror every day. So I want the consumer, I want my audience to know how important it is to purchase from an individual or a company like yourself where it is back. You put your heart and soul into it. You put your savings into it.
Mhm.
And it's your love and your passion behind each product, which guarantees result and efficacy. It really does. It really does. So I just wanted to touch on that. But
Thank
you
you.
mentioned Just Calm. That's what I wanted to bring up. I had no idea that, when I think of Just Calm, I think of magnesium. But no,
Mhm.
no, no. Then I look at Just Calm and I'm like, this is B longum 1714. It's a psychobiotic. I've never heard of a psychobiotic. So I definitely want you to touch on that before I let you go. Because
Yeah.
many of my ladies out there are suffering with anxiety because of perimenopause and menopause. So
Yeah.
let's actually give them something for that.
Yeah. So yeah, we were disruptors in the market when we came out with spore-based probiotic. Nobody had ever heard of them. And so we were also disruptors when we came out with our psychobiotic. And psychobiotic is a term that was probably coined about maybe 5, 6 years ago. And so it's basically friendly bacteria that supports the gut-brain axis. So the way I like to explain is that the probiotic is helping. Remember, we talked about that inflammatory response that could go to the brain. When you've got leaky gut, the inflammation could go to your brain, and then that causes all kinds of mood issues. So we've covered that with the probiotic, but the psychobiotic is actually dealing with external stressors. So we're in traffic, or we've got this list of that's so long. We're going to deal with external stressors every day. I mean, we're not going to get away from that. And so that's what the psychobiotic does. It helps us perceive stress better. So it actually changes our brainwave activity to put us more into a theta wave, so into more of that flow state. It's actually helping us just be calmer and able to perceive stress better. And I mean, who doesn't need that in this day and age when we have way too much stress out there? We can't get rid. I mean, one of the things I always recommend to people to do when they're talking about their gut health is just to do things that calm them down, because meditate, deep breathing, walks in nature, all those things are really, really serious. And I mean, years ago, people would think that was the strangest thing they'd ever heard of. Like, you want me to meditate to help my gut? Well, absolutely. There's a huge gut brain connection, which I'm sure you've already talked about on your show, but it's nothing to like, balk or to like skip over. It's really important to think about that gut brain connection. And so signals are going back and forth from the gut to the brain and then the brain to the gut. So the psychobiotic is helping with those external stressors, putting us more into that calm state, bringing our cortisol levels down, helping us get into more of that flow state.
That is nice. I
Yeah.
think I need that. If you're a business owner, you need that every day. I totally know why you made that. So you can
Yeah.
keep sane as you
Yeah.
run a business, right?
Yes. And raised three kids. And now I'm a grandmother. So yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I need it. Definitely
And that
need.
is safe to take every day as well, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is amazing. I think this is an amazing conversation. We gave people actionable, simple protocols that they can implement with high quality supplements that are actually going to do what they say that they do.
Mhm.
So, and you all have been so generous. You're offering my audience 20% off, which is huge. So that's thank you for that because I want people to be able to try these products like I have. I want them to be able to experience the improvement in digestion, the immediate calming of that heartburn. And now I'm going to start popping the just calm because I realize now that I know what it is, that's going to be incorporated in daily, as is my probiotic now, because now I learned that I can take the probiotic daily. I don't have to cycle it. So
Yeah.
I learned so much on here. I'm excited about these simple protocols and beyond gracious for the 20% off that you're giving my audience. So we're going to put the link into the show notes. But for all y'all listening, you want to go to justthrivehealth.com and use the promo code Dr. Amie. So it's JUSTTHRIVE and then health, HEALTH.com. Use the code Dr. Amie, DRAMIE. That's what's going to give you the 20% off at checkout. And you're not going to go wrong with these. I mean, I promise y'all listening, I try everything. Like I said, I will not endorse a product, bring it to you as my audience unless I know that it works, unless I am in love with it. And I've been looking for a really amazing gut line and I found it because I found the founder and I love that you and your husband own it and I love that your name is backing it and I love that it's high quality. So I just had to say all of that because I'm gushing a little bit, but I had to say all of that because it's important when you are looking at, like you said, all of the everything does gut, right? Everything heals the gut. No, you want specific targeted protocols, but simple protocols to actually take your gut healing to the next level.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That was so kind of you to say. And I appreciate your platform. I love your podcast. I listen to it all the time and appreciate you giving us the opportunity to share our heart and soul of our products with you and your audience.
Well, thank you for creating something like this because we need it. I know the importance of gut health, even though I don't specialize in it. It's very important for all things thyroid hormone, autoimmune, detoxification. And now you took my knowledge to another level today, too. So I thank you for that. So thank you so much for your time and your generosity today.
Thank you, Dr. Amie.